So, all throughout high school, I'd always hear about the seniors complaining about having something called senioritis. Talking about how, senioritis is really killing my motivation. I haven't been able to do any work in the last 4 months. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I always thought that it was just a bunch of nonsense and that they were just trying to use a fake condition as an excuse for just being lazy. I told myself that I would never, ever let myself fall victim to this senioritis and that I would always stay on top of my work no matter what. You know, Rip to everyone else, but I'm built different. And then the senioritis hit. Hi there, welcome to Lordrick's Room. My name is Lordrick. With the end of the school year swiftly approaching, many of you high school seniors may have recently found yourselves coming down with a case of senioritis. Or, given how this whole year has sort of gone for you guys, maybe, you've been down bad all year. In any case, the end of high school is here, and with the last of your college decisions having just rolled in, it kind of feels like the rest of high school is pointless. For the longest time, I thought senioritis was completely fake. But I feel like right after I submitted my last college application, the last bit of motivation I was holding on to finally let itself free. Especially considering that the, whole world also shut down around then, I finally became a firm believer in the power of senioritis. Head empty, no thoughts, just vibing. There was a pretty stark contrast for me between the two halves of senior year. First half, I was taking like 8 AP classes, I had all my clubs and stuff, I was sleeping for 4 hours a day, and then second half, I could probably count how many times I did an actual assignment, and like all of my clubs had shut down for obvious reasons. I was still sleeping like 4 hours a day, but that was less a product of the circumstances and more just because of who I am as a person. But my point is that as someone who considered themselves the grindiest grinder to have ever grinded, I have to say that senioritis is 100% real. So today I'd like to propose 3 cures or solutions or whatever you want to call it, for dealing with senioritis. I'll start with the one that I prefer third most and work my way down to my favorite. So be sure to stick to the end for what I consider to be the best way to deal with senioritis. Okay, so my first cure is to really hunker down so that you can finish the year strong. Because, you only have a couple months left of high school ever, so it would be kinda lame to stumble across that finish line. Since senioritis has to do with you losing all your motivation to do work, we just gotta bring that motivation back. And so I was thinking, what is the best way to motivate a senior who's just waiting for high school to end so that they can go off to college? And then it hit me.
Ooh, you could get rescinded if your grades get bad enough. Ooh, and then you won't be able to go to the college of your choice. Ooh.
Honestly, the only thing I could really think of that would actually motivate a second semester senior to do their work is to play the rescind card. Originally when I was working on the script, I was going to talk about how you should wake up early and get dressed as if you were going to go to school for real, and that you should get a planner to stay organized and plan out all your tasks for the day. But then I stopped and asked myself, if I was a senior, would I actually take this advice? And then I laughed. So here we are. I'm gonna be straight with you guys. Once you're into your second semester of senior year, it doesn't matter nearly as much as it did in the first semester. There is the possibility of getting rescinded if, your grades drop low enough, but that's usually reserved for pretty extreme cases, and while I have heard of people get warnings, I haven't heard of many cases where people actually got rescinded for having bad grades. So I guess if you're in a close race for valedictorian or something like that, it would be worth it to keep pushing and, trying to get good grades. But as long as you're in a good enough place with your grades to the point where you probably shouldn't have to worry about being rescinded, you'll be fine. I suppose there are also the AP exams, but again, unless your school is gonna give you credit for them, they won't really affect much either. Like in my case, Stanford wouldn't have given credit for a majority of my AP exams, so while I obviously still tried, it wouldn't have made much difference either way, since I wouldn't have gotten credit for them. And so I guess that just leaves clubs and activities. If you only joined certain clubs because you wanted to look good for your college applications, I mean, I guess you can stop now. But if you joined them because you actually enjoyed them, I imagine you'd still want to be involved with them, even though it's, nearing the end of the year. So either way, there's no need to try to motivate you any further. So while it would be ideal to push through your classes to strive and continue doing well, realistically, there aren't many good ways to increase one's motivation in any meaningful way, which is why it's the least effective cure on this list. But moving to cure number 2, this point in the year is a great time to take on new side projects and get new hobbies. The worst part of senioritis is not the impact it has on your high school grades, because if that was a big issue, it wouldn't exist in the first place. The real killer is how it completely destroys your motivation to do anything. And since that lack of motivation isn't really a big problem, at least right away, it's less likely to be addressed early on. And this is a problem because while not having any motivation is fine at the end of high school when you're not really doing anything, it is going to be a big issue once you're in college and you're doing college things as a college student does. And for that reason, it's really important to maintain some sense of motivation through to the start of college. And if your classes aren't going to be that source of motivation for you, you gotta start looking elsewhere. So maybe during high school, you had always wanted to start trying something new, whether that be learning how to play the guitar, writing a book, creating a business, or maybe even starting a YouTube channel. But you never had any time because you were waist deep in essays and other assignments. But lucky for you, you've suddenly come across a bunch of free time. So now you can start working on whatever side project has been on the back of your mind all this time. And if you don't have anything in particular or any particular hobby you'd like to try, now is also a great time to explore your options. You can really throw yourself to the wind and see what sticks. As for me, you might have been able to guess, but I started uploading on YouTube again after taking a pretty long break during the first half of senior year. It was a lot more work than I thought it would be, but I learned a lot and really enjoyed it. I also tried some other things like learning how to bake and learning how to draw, but those things weren't as fun to me immediately at the time, so I dropped them. But all of these were things I wouldn't have had a whole lot of time for during the more intense periods of the high school grind. So now is really the time for you guys to explore new interests or, pick up old interests again now that you have a lot of free time. And so by finding something to occupy your time, it'll be much easier to hold on to your motivation, which you're really gonna need again in a few months. Between everything on this list, I would say that this is the most effective cure for mitigating senioritis, but I have it here at number 2 because it still isn't my most preferred way for dealing with senioritis. And that's because the first place prize for my favorite way of curing senioritis goes to number 3. Doing nothing. Now, while this isn't technically a cure for senioritis or a way of even slightly dealing with it, I do think that this is the best way you could approach it. And my answer for this has actually changed since starting college. Previously, I would have said that the second way of dealing with senioritis is the best way to go, but that was before I started college. I'm gonna say that the 6 or so months between the time you submit your college applications and the time you actually go to college is the most free time you're gonna have in a very long time. Of course, I am just a freshman, so I can't know for sure, and I could totally be wrong, but I highly doubt that the next few years are gonna get any easier for me. Man. And like considering how intense the workload of having an actual real life job can be, this might be the most free time you are ever gonna have again. Ever. At least until like you retire or something. So no pressure, but you might want to make the most of it. But I do think it is still important to set yourself up for success at the start of your college career by doing things that can keep you motivated and all that. But rest is very important. You know, the last 4 years of high school were rough. They were rough. And if I'm being honest, the next 4 years of high school are gonna be even rougher. Really rough. So even if you feel unproductive right now, that's totally okay. Like, go play the games and watch the anime you haven't had time to, and go hang out with your friends when it becomes safe to do so again. You know, grind culture can be really draining, so leave next time's work for next time. You know, there's time to do work and there's time to rest. And since it may be a while before you get another chance like this, just take it easy for now. You guys have worked hard enough. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.